Well, hello, my lovelies. It's Murky Meg here. It's Thursday, the 20th of October, and I feel like I've got so much to say because so much has happened. I'm actually at a loss on where to start. But first, I'm going to discuss the Deal or No Deal episode of Archetypes because in spectacular style, she's literally obliterated her past. We all know that she started out as a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal, and she used this experience when she sat down with Paris Hilton on an episode of her Archetypes podcast to tackle the stereotypes of bimbos. Now, Meghan herself admitted that she herself judged Paris Hilton on being a bimbo herself, or a sex object, or just misunderstood or misrepresented or misthought. And she now calls her a genius. Isn't that funny? I quite like Paris Hilton, to be perfectly honest. She never kind of takes things too seriously. She's always one to kind of tongue-in-cheek make fun of herself, and I think that is a lovely quality to have. Helps being an heiress to a multi-billion-dollar hotel chain, but hey, them the breaks. Now, during this sit-down with Paris Hilton, Meghan admits that she was treated like a bimbo on the Deal or No Deal, being a briefcase girl, and that she wants Lilibet to aspire to higher things. Well, actually, I think that's kind of rude to anybody that is working in a job that uses an element of sexuality to get what they want, or use that, be it an actress, be it a waitress, be it a bartender, being a sex worker. Now, sex worker can be very generalised. Doesn't mean somebody that walks the night, but OnlyFans and things like that. Women have been using their feminine wiles for a very, very, very long time. It goes back to the oldest profession in time, doesn't it? But what's wrong with that? I'm of a mindset that if that's what you want to do, then be proud and do it. You shouldn't feel ashamed of doing it. If you've got it and want to flaunt it. But don't shame others that do. And that seems to be what she's doing. She's literally shamed people that use their sexuality in a positive way. And I think that is very, very bad behaviour. Now remember, this is the lady that likened herself to the Little Mermaid with no voice, and then she met her prince and found her voice. Again, stereotyping. It's ridiculous. She says one thing and does another. But she's looking back at her past and saying, I was objectified. She says that she was body shamed by a female Deal or No Deal producer who yelled at her to suck it in before live shows. Well, so what? So what? You chose to do the job. You knew what the job description was. You chose to do that job and knew what it entailed. I don't see the problem. Is she now in such a highly privileged position that she can just slam everybody that's gone before her and kind of look back and gone, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. Well, tough, because you did. And maybe you wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't. You had a choice not to take that role, but you did, and it happened. It's no good looking back publicly and saying, they made me feel bad, so therefore I'm going to shame everybody else. It's not the way the world works. Unfortunately for Meghan, that's her bread and butter, isn't it? The grievances of her past, now she's allowed to speak, is going to be used as a tool to gain somebody to listen, to gain headlines, to gain sound bites. It's part of your past, embrace it. I don't think any of us should look back at our past negatively because it made us who we are today. Have I done things that I'm not pleased about? Yes, of course. But if I hadn't have done them, I wouldn't be where I am today. There was an interesting blind that popped up on the very day that all of this came out in the news because she dropped her podcast. Now, I've spoken about Crazy Days and Nights many, many, many times. And as I always say, with blind items, I'll say it again and I'll say it every single time. I will divert your attention to one of these. It is a blind item. Take it with a pinch of salt. Crazy Days and Nights posted a blind item about Meghan Markle, and it says, as I recall, the illiterate one, which is always the way that they describe Meghan Markle, used the reality show she quit, i.e. Deal or No Deal, to get yachting gigs, which is why she was able to quit the reality show. There has always been this deep whispered gossip among those who run in our circles about the yachting gigs. Nobody really knows for sure if it happened, but the whispers are there. And Crazy Days and Nights are saying it out loud. I'll say it again. We always do things that we regret, but they lead us on to greater things. It seems that Crazy Days and Nights are alluding that she was able to quit her Deal or No Deal gig for another gig entirely, which will raise quite a few eyebrows, I would expect. If you don't know what yachting gig is, I suggest you Google it, because I don't particularly want to say it on here, otherwise I'll get demonetised. But anyway, as I said, it's a blind. Take it with a pinch of salt, but it's there in black and white as a gossip titbit, I might add. Do you believe it? Do you believe that she quit for another type of gig? And those in the know, I have heard the whisperings, it was because of this second other gig that she was able to mingle in the circles that Harry became accustomed to. In fact, it was his friend Skippy that had become accustomed to her before Harry. I will use the word accustomed in the very loose terms. But yes, those are the circles, and that is how he met her, and it wasn't a matchmaker. Or so the whispers say. Again, could be true, could not be true. It's all allegedly. But one thing's for sure, she's not going to talk about that on Archetypes, is she? No, she's not going to admit to that. Again, allegedly, wink wink, allegedly. You get my drift. But this whole archetype / stereotypes is a really annoying subject, because it is the way of television. And I know the world has slightly changed since back then. It's become more woke, and you can't really objectify men or women or anybody for that matter. But back then was a different time. I mean, I'm not talking years and years and years ago, but she seems to want to rewrite her history and say, I didn't want to do that, but I was forced to do it. They made me feel ashamed and I was body shamed. Quite simply, you didn't have to take the gig, love. You really, really didn't. I'm sure there were other opportunities available, but that gig enabled you to have the career you had. So surely you'd be proud of where you are. Most people in the industry do embarrassing things to get their career started. And most people fondly remember those things, because if they hadn't have done them, they wouldn't be where they are today. But not Meghan, unfortunately. She has to tell the world that she was objectified. She got paid $800 an episode, and she quit because she hated being objectified. And we all know what she went on to do, allegedly. But it seems that she is ashamed of her past, and I find that really rather sad, to be perfectly honest. It's almost as if she sits in her ivory tower and can condemn everybody else that's doing the same sort of thing. Well, people can be knocked off pedestals quite easily, and she's doing that very, very easily herself, because, quite frankly, she's looking like a fool. Was she objectified? More than likely, but she knew that was the role that she was given. It would have been in the job description. Everybody knew. She would have known from the offset. Even the women on the same show as her have come up and said, actually, no, that's not true. We weren't chosen just for our looks. We were chosen for our bubbly personalities. So the women that have worked with her, or woman, have come back and shot back and said, no, that's not the case at all. So again, she's using a narrative to form an opinion, to push a narrative, and to push something that she's not happy about, that wants everybody to know about. She doesn't want to be known as a bimbo. When in fact, people don't remember her for the Deal or No Deal. People remember her for Suits. Again, she dressed up as a sexy legal. It was a paralegal, wasn't it? But she still wore sexy outfits. So are we going to have a pop at that? Is she going to say, they made me dress up in high heels, short skirts, tight skirts, low cut tops, show my figure off? No, because it's what she's most famous for. She also did Beverly Hills 90210, and that was a very questionable scene, but she had 2 scenes in that. She's not mentioned that. And in fact, I find those scenes far worse than Deal or No Deal. And let's not forget this little episode, this little scene for CSI NY. during her early days of the career. Yet she has a problem with Deal or No Deal. I think these are far worse. So I would love to know your thoughts on this. Do you think this is just her nitpicking at the things that she doesn't like in her past and something to talk about? She needed some form of connection to talk with Paris Hilton, and that's what she came up with. She just plucked that up and thought, oh, I know, I'm going to talk about this. Do you think that no matter what we do in our lives, we should be proud of the decisions that we've made because it's got us to where we are? In fact, it has got her to where she is. And I don't understand why she wouldn't be proud of that fact. She's used this as an example purely to have a connection with Paris Hilton. And let's face it, Hollywood is full of stereotypes. There's no getting around that. It's what sells. And not just one stereotype. You know, there are so many stereotypes in Hollywood for male and female roles. But is she going to tackle any of those? I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this. And why on earth she's actually gone on record and done this. As always, I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and also that like button. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my followers for all the tips and all the emails, DMs that everybody sends to me. It really is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching once again.